call me Cuban Carl, but I'm not really Cuban. I'm Puerto Rican, but I live in Brighton Beach near Coney Island with all the Russians. Many of them are either called Boris or Alexia Carl, but spelled with a K. And so to keep things straight, they call me Cuban Carl, so they won't mix me up with one of their own. Being that they're Russians, they think that everyone who is Hispanic is Cuban. It's a holdover from the time of the Cold War, and I don't have the energy to explain to them what a Puerto Rican is, so just let them call me Cuban Carl. When I was 13, my old man took me to a Cathouse. A Cathouse is really just a nice name for a whorehouse. It's a common thing in Puerto Rico and in many Latin American countries for that matter, for a father to take his boy to a prostitute to experience his first encounter with a woman when he comes of age. It's a tradition and a rite of passage. Well, my old man woke me up one morning and told me to take a bathing to get ready, for this was my day. And being the well-behaved son that I was, I did as I was told. I can still remember seeing my mom's eyes fill with tears as my dad and I went up the hill to where La Casa, the house, was located. My mom didn't agree with this tradition, but she felt powerless to stop it, so we went. My dad and me, and I began to feel the dread building inside me as we got closer and closer to the Cathouse. I didn't know what my father had in mind when the day started out, but I began to put two and two together when instead of turning off that road like most people did, we just kept right on walking, right up to the dirt path that twisted onto Senorita Carmen's property. Carmen was the madam there, and all the kids knew what went on behind those beat-up old doors, even if they'd never had sex or set foot in there before. We would often see the prostitutes standing outside smoking cigarettes in between johns, and they would always flirt with us. We would be flattered by the attention, of course, but back then it was fun, because we knew it would never go beyond the flirting stage. But this time it was different. I knew it, and my father knew it. And now that I realized what was about to happen, I grew nervous and weak, and I didn't want to go through with it. But to back out would be a disgrace, and I realized this. And I didn't want to disgrace my old man, so I tried to be brave. But I was just a kid, and I walked like a condemned man on his way to his execution. My father realized this because he began to grow impatient with my slow pace and insisted that I hurry up and walk like a man. He was always good at comparing me and my brothers to men, even though we were only boys. Finally, we reached the front door of Carmen's. My father knocked loudly as if he were a person of authority or nobility, and I just wanted to hide. At first, no one answered the door, and I began to look around and pray that I'd get a reprieve. There was an odor of cat pee all around, and when I looked underneath the porch, into the darkness of the crawl space, I could clearly see a bunch of cats of all ages and sizes running this way and that, and playing and hissing at each other. Obviously, this place was called a Cathouse for a lot of reasons. My old man tugged roughly on my arm, pulling me to my feet and scolding me for acting like a child and wanting to play with the cats under the house. Then Carmen came to the door. She was a big-boned woman with long, dark, curly hair, full hips, huge breasts, and a saliva-soaked, stinky cigar in her mouth. She wore her skirts real short, and I could tell she wasn't wearing a bra. It probably made things easier that she didn't. My father explained what we were doing there, and Carmen laughed. She reassured my father that since this was a special occasion, that she would do me the honors. She saw that he had become nervous, and she tried to calm his fears. She guaranteed that he would not be disgraced by my inexperience. She bet her professional career on it. That's why she offered to handle my deflowering herself. Carmen stood before me like Agent Orange, hands on her hips, puffing on her cigar, and I must have looked like some lush virgin forest just waiting to be stripped bare. She grabbed me by the hand and led me into a bedroom, right by many of the same women that we would see when we ran by the Cathouse after school. But this time they looked at me and they didn't flirt. They knew what was in store for me, even if I didn't fully understand it myself. Once inside her bedroom, Carmen slipped out of her clothes in one smooth move and lay down on the creaky bed, almost as if she'd done this before. My mind was thinking wild thoughts, and when I didn't strip just as quickly, she rose and with an annoyed look on her face began undressing me herself. It felt sort of like when I got dressed for school, except moving backwards and in slow motion. Carmen yanked at my pants, unbuttoned my shirt, and removed my underwear as if there was something of value hidden inside. Then she grabbed me by the arms, and I fell on her like a sack of potatoes. She was at least twice my size, and she would toss me around the way she wanted to. I was like a rag doll. She put my body first in one position and then the next, gyrating her hips into mine and moaning loudly. I grew aroused, of course, but when I heard her start to screech, I got really nervous. I didn't know what was going on, but whatever it was scaring me. I wondered whether Carmen was okay or not, and judging by the way she was carrying on, this had to be hurting her. I only wondered how long it would be before this would start hurting me too. So I started to panic. That was when Carmen really started to get belligerent. I guess they take it personally when a trick isn't able to perform with a prostitute. I was definitely not performing well under the circumstances. I had seen chickens and goats and sheep all doing the deed when I was growing up, but I'd never heard any of them making the noises that Carmen was making. I thought I was doing something really wrong. But finally, maybe mercifully, Carmen became enraged. She threw me off and told me to get dressed. She took me out to my old man. She ranted and raved about how she had never been so insulted in all her life, and that if my dad wasn't careful, he might eventually end up with a homosexual as his legacy. I had done the thing that he had feared most. I had disgraced him. I had not performed like a man. It didn't matter I was only 13. I should have performed much older. I should have risen to the occasion. He grabbed me by the collar and pushed me along the street in front of him. When I got home, my mother realized what had happened, and she hugged me and told me that she would see to it this never happened again. My old man never spoke about this incident again, and we never went back to the Cathouse. But I couldn't pass by it afterwards without thinking back to that traumatic day. I'm 38 years old now, and I've never been married. I have 5 kids with 3 different women. If I ever figure out what makes a better half tick, maybe one day I'll settle down. But those memories, they're really something.